ask questions or comment, please sign in at the podium. Please, do we have sign up? Did anybody sign up?
Bill, did you sign up?
Gives new definition to
First Councilwoman
In your way. Oh, I'm so happy.
Councilman.
Mr. Moody, would you like to start off tonight?
Sure. Gaylord Moody, Chesapeake City. And I think I've probably covered this individually, but I just want to mention 3 brief remarks, 1 question. The council has added 1 highly visible, well-compensated council manager. There should be no further discussion of additional staffing or personnel, not a lawyer, not an internal auditor. All 5 members of council and the executive at one time or another seem to encourage campaign supporters to believe they would work for smaller government, not larger. The internal audit position should be deleted from the proposed budget. It is the executive's budget. The executive should remove it. That's my first comment. Second comment, council has added a position, the council manager. Council should cut a position from government elsewhere. I do not think county government should provide marketing for special interest groups such as the Chamber of Commerce, Marine Trade Association, local board of realtors. The Office of Tourism should not be on government payroll, should be in the Chamber of Commerce or elsewhere in the private sector. My third comment. The previous administration destroyed the credibility of local government regarding stewardship of financial resources. An elected treasurer accepted a position on the board of directors of local bank in spite of an apparent blatant conflict of interests. Previous treasurer solicited tax sale advertisement bids, then worked with a commissioner to jigger the process to throw out the low bid. 3 commissioners and the treasurer absolutely destroyed the last vestige of credibility in the bid process by conniving and scheming to let cronies take over the animal control function. Now with that as comments, my question, I would like to know if the bid process for purchases has the strength of law, or are county employees allowed to ignore that defined process when elected officials so advise them? But instead of a legal opinion, I'm asking for your opinion as elected officials. Do you feel you have the authority to circumvent the bid process?
I absolutely positively do not think I do.
I agree that we should not. I do agree with you, there were some shenanigans that went on previously. I also feel that it's not our responsibility as council members to oversee that any longer. This is something that the county executive needs to watch very carefully and be held accountable for. I think that there were some new policies put into the purchasing procedure. I also feel that bidders should also hold the purchasing process accountable, which means that they need to keep their nose clean too, so that they can object when a bid is not done well, the process is not open, transparent, and fair. And I hope that those things that happened in the past will not be repeated again.
Okay, thank you.
If you don't want to hear from me.
No. If you have an opinion, I'd love to hear it.
Oh, sure. Well, I'd like, well, actually, I'm going to ask a question. The shenanigans, I'd like to, could you expound on that, in the bid process?
Well, I think one of the examples that Mr. Moody brought up was the animal care and control bid process. And I felt strongly that we, county commissioners, actually made it difficult for one vendor and made it easy for another vendor to move forward with the process.
Okay.
I also felt that not only did they grant the contract for the period that was advertised in the bid, but they said, oh, what the hell, let's just give them the contract for a longer period, even if they didn't ask for it. So I thought that we really sweetened the pot, for one particular vendor, and made it practically impossible for another vendor to, qualify and move forward. And I thought that was, manipulation of the process that should not have occurred.
Well, you're entitled to your opinion. I appreciate you being so honest in expressing it. My memory certainly differently in what happened, in that the one vendor actually withdrew their bid. The one vendor withdrew they broke the contract, and then they were going to reapply for the very same contract that they objected to, and then they pulled it back. They withdrew that. So that's a little bit different than what you just described. Now, the extension of the contract, I believe there was discussion about giving the vendor enough time to make a go of it, and I have the same feelings for them as I have for any contractor. If they can't make it work, they are not successful. If there is another bidder that comes forward and is able to do it for cheaper and better, we should do that. Isn't that why we went to the electrical, individual contractors for the electrical inspectors? We opened it up to the open market. You know, it's not to say that the original vendor can't come back in and bid. I think the problems that we had before are being addressed because competition does, and I know you're a big fan of competition, so.
I am, but it needs to be fair.
The,
We need to treat all
well,
the parties equally.
I agree so much. The in-house auditor, I would have loved to talk to Mr. Moody about this, because I know how, finance is so important. But would like to have gotten his perspective on all the research I had to do on my own time on the proposed upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant at Seneca Point. It's a $40 million upgrade to take us back to 2 MGD. And it was a process that DPW put forward on their own, no comparison to any other process. And there are some out there that are half the price. And I believe my good councilman, Mr. Hodge, agreed with the presentation I had made that yes, there should have been more scrutiny, more oversight, more information coming out of DPW in researching this.
Point of order, the topic of discussion is the bid process.
No, but
This
no,
is an informal process,
Mr. Moody, I think you did bring up the internal auditor in your first comments about your
Yes.
opinion was that we should not hire
Not
an
hire
internal
an internal
auditor.
auditor.
Thank you.
I think that Diana Brumel is answering.
I'm responding to my opinion on that.
But, see, this is.
Mr.
where-
Moody, let her finish.
Okay,
Then you can.
It was a lot of work I did on my own, and that's just one example of the money we could save with an in-house auditor, that they would have the time to research our questions on specific issues. I did agree, it was misprinted in the Cecil Wig, I'm sure it wasn't intentional, but when I had said to Mr. Winston Robinson that I appreciate your answer, what he was actually saying is that he agreed we did need a position like that, albeit it didn't need to be full-time. And I agree with that. It probably doesn't need to be full-time, but we need, for us to still have this position where we vote, we have to vote responsibly. And I know, Councilwoman Bowlesby, the intention, she had said, was always to diminish was always
She's
to
not
diminish.
discussing an internal audit position,
Moody,
she's
let-
discussing
let her have-
financial analysts.
Let her have her piece.
She doesn't know what
Mr.
she's
Moody,
talking about.
Mr. Moody, let her finish. You don't have to agree with her, okay?
Very good.
But you have to listen.
Very good.
Okay, so talking about the in-house auditor, the benefit, sorry, I lost my train of thought now.
You were saying that I was diminishing
Yes,
the
thank you.
duties. I'll certainly bring that up so you remember it, because I want to hear it again.
Yes, well, I had asked, Ms. Bowlby why she would support me having the resources I need to get the job done, and she said it was always the intention that the legislative side would be diminished in power, and I think a lot of people thought that was the intention. But you don't realize the way charter's supposed to work is that you have a balanced form of government. You have legislative on one side and you have executive on the other. And there has to be, we need to have the resources to be able to get our job done. And that's what you see across the state. The counties that do have charter tend to grow very quickly because they have to have the resources that are on the county executive side. So, that's just another perspective. Agree to disagree?
Is there anyone else that has a question or a comment for the council members? Anyone in the audience?
I have a quick question on the statement, that was.
Mr. Mechanic, could you come up to the podium, please, and state your name and where you live?
Earl Mechanic, Alphaneck. You just stated that counties that form charter government grow very quickly. And so are you suggesting at that point that we do the same, that because somebody else does it, makes it right?
Well, there's two options. I can either continue to operate and do, all this work on my own, and I'm gonna try and do as much as I can. Or we can, provide the council the resources they need. There's a third option. We can, after we've grown too much, or the public says, hey, this isn't working, or they're wondering, where's the transparency on the county executive side? I would think, doesn't anybody want her to come down and participate in the citizens' corner?
You badger her so bad, I don't blame her for not wanting to.
I do have.
We had a meeting today and, there was no badgering. I
Wow.
do think there should be, since you're with the Patriots, if the
Wait.
Patriots want
Point of order,
accountability, fiscal responsibility, transparency, at least that's what you espouse. So, I would say that, just have the county executive come down and answer the questions, and let's make it an open and transparent process. If it's a process that the public feels it's not working, the third option is that we would,
We muzzle the
repeal
noisy
it,
crowd.
and, we can go to code home rule, or we go back to, county commissioner.
Okay, I certainly have a difference of opinion on the internal auditor. And my recollection of the discussion with Winston Robinson was that, yes, he felt that there was some benefit to it. I don't think that he agreed that we had to have one. I think there's a difference between, a need and a want. I think that.
I spoke with him today, though, and he said he didn't feel there was a full-time necessity, but he was one of the people I went to when I researched the in-house auditor position along with Bill Feely, and they.
We're not taking your word for it.
And I
This
guess
is the
my
project.
comment is, I don't see the need yet. Now, I decided that when I wanted to run for office, that I had certain skill sets and experiences that I thought that I could bring to the table, that I could bring to, when I saw to the table, the Board of Commissioners, that I could help the Board of Commissioners with decision-making when subject matter expertise was necessary. I also felt that I knew enough people, enough resources, that I could go out into the public and ask people questions. And I could get input from various sources. And I didn't have to have a paid employee to provide that documentation and that input to me. I think that I have the ability, whether it's go in the phone book or my personal business directory, and call somebody up and say, hey, I know you're an expert in a particular field or interest, would you help me out and answer some questions that I have about something the county government is considering. So I believe that we, the county council, should be able to, through our own resources, without using taxpayer resources, to find the necessary information that we need to make legitimate decisions. And that's why I am not going to support an internal auditor when we consider that option. And certainly, I know that you feel strongly about it, but I am not going to support it, and I'm not sure where all the other county council members stand, but I just don't think it's a luxury that we can afford to have at this point in time.
So the research I had, completed on the wastewater treatment plant, do you acknowledge that that was, relevant?
I think that you have reached a foregone conclusion in your mind on that particular issue. I don't think that you have heard a presentation from the Department of Public Works yet on what they have done. Now, I did agree with you that I don't believe that they, the Department of Public Works, has sufficiently described to us their process of coming to the conclusion that they reached. And they need to explain to us that they've evaluated all the other options and come to the conclusion that they're going to come to, and then justify it. That's what I'm expecting during the budget process. There will be a segment of the budget process that they will come to the council, and they're going to put it up on PowerPoint and in writing, and they're going to say, we have decided to go in this direction with the wastewater treatment. And here's how and why we've done that. You have already made your mind up that they're wrong, and that whatever they say is not going to matter, and that you have a better idea. Now, if you have a better idea, then you should lay it on the table and let us know about it, and then you can tell us how you came to that conclusion, and we'll give it serious consideration.
Well, in my presentation, which is on my blog spot, dianabrummel.com, it outlined the research I had done and the options of where we could have went. And when I'd gotten feedback from the public that $20 million was a lot of money to be putting into a plant, only to go back to 2 MGD, I thought I'd research, well, and as you described, that's exactly what I did. I called up the experts I knew and asked them, does this sound right to you? Logically, what would you do? And in my pursuit, also online, I found where other counties, before they went to a certain process and committed to a certain process, they had done pilot studies where they compared they could go out and rent the equipment and try the different filtration systems or added processes to their existing plant to see which one worked the best, which one was the most cost efficient. There was all this criteria of how they measured. I included that in my presentation. And you know, what was interesting is, I thought it was way too detailed, but I had to make sure I got everything in so it was on the record, because we have audio recordings, which I can go back. Mr. Flanagan sat there and listened, and it was afterwards I heard that it wasn't $20 million, it was actually $30 million. The total cost for us to go back to 2 MGD is $40 million, and then we get 10.9 from the state, which brings it back to about 30. So,
Mrs. Bowlby, you have?
Well, I have a lot to say, but I think there's some people in the audience that have a lot to say, and this is not necessarily our platform.
Right, I agree.
So I will acquiesce to the
And
audience.
Harold, before you say a word, is there anyone else that has something to say? Harold, we'll get back to you. We're not done. Donna?
I just have a quick question. Diana, when you
yes. Can you come
did
up
all
to
this research,
Yeah.
Don Colton, when you did all this research on your own, had you gone to the Department of Public Works and asked them what they had done ahead of time before you went and did that on your own? I know you said that they hadn't done a good job of presenting. Had you, before you did all the research, did you go to them and ask them and try and work with them?
I did speak with
before?
Jeff Cole, and he provided that there was a biomag that had been brought up before, and they just didn't didn't feel comfortable, they felt it wasn't the filtration system. It actually is, but they weren't comfortable with that process. It was new at that time when it was first presented. Since then, Siemens has purchased the technology, which is a huge company, adding relevancy to it. But there's other processes as well. And I will be the first to admit, this is not my area. I'm not a wastewater treatment plant expert. But I did go and, went to, one treatment plant in Abilene and, spoke with, another, two experts. I can't really say who they are because they're affiliated.
Well, since they are the experts, I guess my question is, rather than grow government and use that as an example of why you would hire somebody to help you do that research, why didn't you just go to them and say, we need to sit down and present to them rather than creating another job?
Well, I can go on. I mean, this is being done, and it's been presented, and there was also Ron Hartman. I can say I worked with him as well. He used to sell, equipment to wastewater treatment plants, so he's familiar with, the evolving technology. That's another element too, that it's rapidly evolving because of all the mandates that are being put on our treatment plants in the state of Maryland. There is, new processes on current footprints where you don't have to go out and purchase additional land. So to commit to a $30 million investment in something we're not going to utilize until we get to 4 MGD, which is forecasted to upgrade past the 2 MGD, it's forecasted 2040. By that time, there could be a whole other technology that would be cheaper.
Okay, and I guess we don't need to get into all that detail.
Yeah.
I guess my point is I would just, if you know, I'm against the county auditor, but I would say that if you did admit it's not your expertise, and rather than like reinventing the wheel and starting and digging up things and you know, doing all your research, I would suggest in every situation, going to the experts and just sitting down and, you know, sitting down and having meetings with them.
Right, Donna, you bring up a good point, because, you know, I'll give credit to Mr. Flanagan that he's an expert in quite a few areas. The problem is sometimes he's not forthcoming with all of the information. And I think that's what you had alluded to also, Robert. And, it's like pulling teeth to get the information out. And now, I mean, that was before it was commissioner. Now, we're in a different dynamic. County executive, council. He represents the county executive. He doesn't have to answer to us. I'm supposed to go through our council manager to get the information, really, in the formal process. So it's not like there's free-flowing information. But I would think it should be transparent. It's all of the taxpayer money. And we should be getting the best use for that money. It should be spent wisely. You know, and I'm trying to do my job. I have a responsibility to vote, you know, with the best information. That's all I'm trying to do is get the best information.
I agree, we all should have that responsibility to get as much information as we can to make a good decision. I also would suggest that we, the county taxpayers, pay our employees a lot of money to do their job. And if we don't trust them to do their job, then we should get rid of them and hire people that we trust. And so, to some level, I don't think it's the job of the county council to micromanage how we do everything in county government. And we should hire the best qualified employees to do their job.
Yeah.
And then we should obviously hold them accountable, but we should understand where they're coming from and make some suggestions and give them some direction. But if they're not doing their job, then we should get rid of them and hire others. So if we micromanage every little decision that every employee tries to put forth, I'm not sure that that's going to be a very efficient government. Alan, do you have a thought?
You correct me if I'm wrong. When you were the commissioners, I mean, did you not authorize the Department of Public Works to basically investigate the different techniques you could use to increase the filtration
Yes,
system.
and Alan, you bring up a very.
Please don't interrupt me, okay?
Okay.
I'm just asking some simple questions. What you really need, as I see it, is not an internal auditor, maybe you need an environmental scientist.
Yeah.
But you didn't choose to do that. Mr. Feely or anybody else in this internal auditing position, I don't think is capable of making these decisions. And going back to what Mr. Hodge said, is that if you do not trust your Department of Public Works manager who's working on your best interest, then you should basically dispatch him.
Okay, so, you bring up, no, hold on a minute. Your comment, please don't interrupt, so I can keep my
But
train.
did you not vote to have him basically do this evaluation?
No.
Because of-
No, he would tell, hold on, this is very important, he would tell, yes, it does go back a long way, he would tell the information. That, the 10.9, in my research, I had called up Thor Young, who represents GBD, he's our consultant. MDE would not pay for expansion, they would only pay for upgrade to ENR. 10.9 is the amount of money, the cheapest way we could get to ENR. That's all they were willing to fund. So that's what the 10.9 was for, and Mr. Flanagan, I checked with, I had called up Jim Mullen as soon as I found that out. I said, was that ever presented to us in that manner? And he agreed it wasn't. So, and that's what I'm talking about. Certain information is spoon-fed, I believe, and I don't appreciate that. And that's why I have to go out and do the research.
What could possibly be the motive for him to basically
I'm not gonna
proceed?
speculate on that, Mr. McCarthy, what do you think it is?
I really don't know.
Well, if you wanna blindly follow and not question, you have a
I
responsibility.
did not say I was blindly following, but the
You
thing is that someone's
represented
already.
me for not blindly following, after I had concerns and checked them out. And after what I found out, is there any
How many different types of
relevancy?
filtration systems are there? Could you basically?
Hundreds.
Hundreds?
maybe thousands.
Yeah, we should check them.
Well,
Is there any other member of the audience that'd like to have a comment or question, Mr. Reason?
Al Reason, 632 Conway Road. In the civilian world, I've been a manager of a $100 million project. I've also been an auditor. So, a technical auditor, not a government auditor. We have, if I remember correctly, an independent auditing organization that we can call if there is a particular situation, rather than hiring somebody at $91,000, including benefits, to do something that in this particular case, they wouldn't have the expertise. I'm not going to say I have the expertise because I've worked with water systems. There are different water systems. There's more than I can probably count. But they do exist out there. But once you make a decision, this decision I believe was made many years ago,
No.
you've committed resources, millions in this case, 3 million I believe I heard. And in the projects I've been on, you just can't stop. When you're looking at profit anyway, maybe government can do that. You just don't stop and tear everything out and put all new, or throw away all your research, all your development, all your engineering, $3 million worth of engineering, and then throw it out and start from scratch. I don't think the citizens would like to hear the $3 million, if that's the number, has been effectively thrown away so we can bring in a new process.
So you're proposing that we've already, you think we spent $3 million, I've been told it was $1 million on engineering after we were misled, in my opinion. After we've spent $1 million, we're committed to spending the additional $30 million without, checking out if that is the best, option.
I've been told that it was checked out, and I believe you just,
Who told you it was checked out?
in the meetings, it's been mentioned that it was checked out initially. Now, the systems may have changed
No,
and
I was at the
improved, and
same-
did you not say that it was a new system, the system that you're talking about, okay? And when I did work, and it was a new, untried system, guess what? I would not authorize it, okay? I would go with an existing system. Now, things change, but once you get to a certain stage, especially in the profit motive area, then you have to make a decision whether you go forward or you stop. There's a schedule. In my particular case, the state has a schedule.
Okay, so you've got to change potentially the schedule, because now you have to have time for engineering, your pilot studies, etc.
I
All
brought that
I'm
up.
saying
They
is
said
you,
it doesn't preclude us to, checking out if there are other processes, but now you're kind of saying, we're committed. We were committed
at
a
some
long
point in
ago.
time in a project, you have to commit. You can't constantly be switching.
Mr. Reeves,
And where were you years ago when this came up, if you thought it was a problem?
I was here.
When I saw that the generator was a problem, I spoke up and got it changed. It took 5 months, but we stopped buying the new generator, okay? And we ended up finding one for 20-some thousand to install instead of 75,000. So you get in on the front end, not in the rear end of a project.
Mr.
Reason.
It sounds like you're the expert that.
I didn't say I was an expert. I said I've
You're
been
coming
there,
across
done that.
it.
But
You're saying how the situation was, throwing out everything I have said about being, participating in these meetings, what we heard, and then what we discovered later were two different things. And I went back and I spoke with Mike and I spoke with Jim. And they both.
Jim?
Jim Mullen.
Jim Mullen.
Oh, he's an expert, I know.
He was sitting there at the meeting. So never mind, this isn't a productive conversation. It sounds
As
like-
usual, it isn't.
Yeah.
Okay, I would suggest that I do agree with a couple citizens that have mentioned regarding a second opinion on a particular subject, that I believe instead of having an internal auditor, that we would expect to have full knowledge of every subject matter that there ever was, that we would, if the council needed a second opinion or a decision on something, that we should be able to hire consultants and subject matter experts to question issues that we feel need to be questioned. But I'm not sure that we can hire someone that knows everything about everything. And in our best interest, we should hire people that are very expert in the field that they're going to recommend to us or make suggestions to us. So I'm fully okay with setting some money aside in our budget to allow us to go outside the independent subject matter experts to give us professional opinions on matters that we think we need more information. If we need it. But I'm not okay with hiring somebody on day one and let them sit there and make up work to do, to keep them busy until something comes up.
And that's the other point I wanted to make. You had said 91,000 for an auditor, and that was never the amount. And in
Yes,
fact,
Yes, it is.
It is.
According to the reports in the
Not
newspapers.
the one I supported. There was I would have supported a manager / auditor. We could have had one in the same. And, got more, so that's what I was proposing. And
But
it
yet
didn't have
you-
to be for a full time.
Yeah, but yet you don't
And I
like
didn't
part
put
of the
that
charter
in.
and you don't wanna spend money, but now you want an auditor, so that's
I
a
want to be able
disconnect.
to do my job reasonably.
I did my job reasonably and I didn't have an auditor
You
when
didn't
I
have
was.
auditors.
an
Auditors as commissioners, Diana.
I am doing my job.
Diana, you didn't have an auditor as a commissioner.
Yes, that's true, but I was able to go to the departments and they were supposed to be giving me the correct information.
I have a lot to say. I
I'll sit
can't
down.
remember what I was going to say. We have not had the presentation on the wastewater treatment plant. We have not had it, as far as I know. Not since I have sat here.
The timeline is ticking, so if we're gonna consider it, we need to move that up quickly.
Well, it's on the schedule to hear, and I have a lot of questions. I have spent some time researching it, and I have a question for you. What membrane system does Perryville have in their new wastewater treatment plant?
They have actually a carousel plant, and I think they have a denitrification filter, which is the one proposed by GMD. The reason why,
It's a
I
membrane
didn't,
system.
denitrification filter. It's over at Prairie Point, Aberdeen Proving Ground.
I was told that Perryville has the membrane system. I have an email.
Not Perryville, Aberdeen
She asked you
Proving
about
Ground.
Perryville.
I asked you about
I
Perryville.
haven't been to Perryville.
Well, I'm asking what kind of membrane system does Perryville
I
have?
don't know.
They have a membrane system according to someone.
What kind of membrane system?
I'm asking you, I don't know.
Who's on first?
All right.
God, this is terrible.
Joyce, the reason why I didn't need an in-house auditor and realized I would after we went to charter is because I could go to the treasurer and was able to get a lot of good information.
About membrane systems and about water treatment
No,
systems?
we're talking about auditing now.
Oh.
Well, okay. Can I-
This is round and round.
Can I, yeah.
Is there anyone else who'd like to ask
This,
a question?
this is not the appropriate forum for us to discuss
To be
how
fighting.
to treat wastewater. This is
Yes.
not the
Well, if
appropriate.
you look out
Now,
the
can
audience-
I'd like to make a recommendation.
If you look out in the audience though, I have spoken with the public and you can go ahead and have your fun and games and think this is ridiculous that I'm questioning. But I can tell you, there's a lot of people upset with this investment,
Who?
going in the growth corridor,
Who?
that we could, excuse me, Mr.
DeFreitas. You know my name.
Yeah, Mr.
A lot of people. Just name one.
If you wanna, provide a question,
That's
you
a
come on
question.
up, but you let someone finish when they're talking.
Like you do?
I do recommend that Ms. Brumel should make a motion at our next meeting and suggest that we hire an expert, subject matter expert, to give us a quick analysis of this project, and
Already done the work.
if that subject matter expert says the county is going down the wrong path, stop, back up, and I'll be happy to seriously consider it. But I am not gonna rely on individual research from people that don't know what the hell they're talking
You,
about. So,
Robert,
bottom line is, if we wanna get an
Robert,
expert,
At the
an
last
expert.
meeting, you admitted, you agreed.
Robert, we are here
Oh.
basically,
We're here for the
basically
public.
entertaining
I agree.
the people,
Right.
not argue amongst yourselves.
And the fact is that the county council has not heard
Would you
the
like to speak?
presentation
Please sign
from the
in.
Public Works Department as of this date on what they're doing and why they're doing it. And so I am prepared to wait and listen to what they have to say. And you apparently have made up your mind now that they're wrong and you don't want them to go forward.
No,
So-
can I clarify, that's not what I'm saying, I'm saying, let's do a pilot study, let's see
Well,
what other.
we have 5 minutes, Mr. Hodge.
Wow.
We have
We
taken
have
up
5 minutes
the
left.
whole citizens' corner
Yeah.
of this argument, and it's not fair to those who came
Excuse us, the
tonight.
council,
It is
and
hard.
apologize. I mean,
It is important.
let's recognize.
I
Mr.
just
Hodge.
wanna say, I don't think you should hire anybody, I think you really need to listen to the presentation before we spend any taxpayer dollars.
Remember I said make a motion? That
Yeah, I
doesn't-
know, I
That
know.
doesn't mean that.
I have a helpful suggestion for you. Mr. Ken Benner is the operator of the Elton plant. He has a long lot of experience in sewer treatment plants. So if you wanna talk to somebody that knows something about operating a sewer plant and what's involved in sewer plants, you just go over to Elton and talk to Mr. Ken Benner.
Mr. Fisher, if you, go to my website and, I have the presentation there, I think I have everything I've gathered, I'm just
Well, I'll look
asking.
at your website. I know a little bit about it, not very much, but I do know a little bit about it.
Does anybody else have anything that they'd like to say? Because I wanted to make one quick statement about this wastewater treatment plant. I too have been doing research, Diana, surprise, surprise. I happen to have a son that works in a water treatment chemical operation. He's the engineer for the plant.
What's the?
His name is Matthew Bolsby.
No, I'm asking, what is the name of the plant?
USALCO is the name of the company. It's not a plant.
USALCO?
USALCO. It's in Brooklyn, south of Baltimore. They do water treatment chemicals. I spent about 2 hours talking to him about membranes and about chemical treatment of wastewater. He said there have been huge strides made in chemical treatment of wastewater, huge strides. He also said the polymers are changing daily. I want to hear the presentation from our wastewater treatment people so that I know why, I wanna hear why they think that this bioreactive membrane system that costs so much money is the right way to go. And I'm not disagreeing with you. You might get my vote if I get a chance to talk. But I wanna hear them first. I have to be fair to the people that we've put in these positions. Scott Flanagan didn't get there because he doesn't know anything. This decision wasn't made over a cup of coffee in a back room. I'm sure they did a lot of studies. I wanna hear what they are. I wanna hear what their rationale is. I wanna ask questions about the newer things that have come along since they've made that decision. Then I will make my decision.
Joyce, how is that any different than what I just requested?
Diana, it's not, there's no auditor involved.
No, I'm already saying, this was an example of why I could use an in-house auditor. I've already done the job.
But
I don't
that's-
need to hire a subject matter expert.
I'm not saying it's any different. I'm saying I might be on your side, but I'm not willing to step forward and say, Scott's wrong, I'm right.
The research.
Not willing to do that.
I'm not saying that.
The research,
Sure are.
the
You're
research.
wanting me to have that position, and I've always said, what I found out, I've discovered that there are other processes, that this is very expensive. Why didn't we have something to compare this to? And I thought Robert actually agreed with me last week. I'll have to go back and listen now, but.
Now, I agreed with you that the Public Works Department has not explained how they came about deciding on the process that they decided on.
Right.
And they need to explain to us that they have researched other options and excluded them. That's what I wanna hear. If they have not, if they haven't done their due diligence on this particular treatment system or process, then I will be very unhappy. But let's go back. The research that you've done to get yourself educated enough that you can ask intelligent questions is why the citizens pay you. They pay you to do the job of council and to ask questions. And the only way that you can ask questions is to have enough education and knowledge about a subject. And that's why we pay Joyce, that's why you pay me, that's why you pay Alan to do this job for you, so that you don't have to get into the trenches and go down the wastewater treatment plant and get involved. So you have expectations that we will ask questions, and we will get educated enough to ask intelligent questions. And I believe strongly that that's why I'm here to represent the best interest of the taxpayers. And you're doing your job, but you shouldn't make conclusions, and you should not make accusations. You should
I
make
didn't
ac-
make accusations.
You said that Scott Flanagan misled us, Scott Flanagan withheld information.
He
To
did.
me, those are
Well,
accusations.
what he did say was that, the 10.9, it was never said that that was the cost for the denitrification filter, that was for DNR. He said that's what they were willing to pay, MDE was willing to pay to put towards, and why not go to the system that we want, think way in advance.
I hope that you have a list of 100 questions that you're gonna ask to educate yourself
Wow,
and
no,
why
it's
explain
not,
it.
I don't wanna put him in his place, I just wanna make a good decision, I just wanna get the information from him, okay?
All right, we have time for one more question.
Run up there.
William Harris, 385 Crystal Beach Road, Burrowville. I don't have a question, I just, I need some assistance. I don't hear well. If you notice when I come to the meetings, I sit up front. And when you all are going back and forth, sometimes I can pick it up, and then sometimes I can't. Those mics you have in front of you are direct mics. I would suggest, just to help you and to help people understand what you're saying, is to put it about 6 inches from your mouth. No farther, because it's not gonna pick your voice up. And it's, most of all, lots of times not gonna pick up the expression that you have in your voice. The only time we get expression from you is when things get loud. And we really don't have to get loud if we use the microphones, right? God bless you, appreciate you.
Thank you, Bill.
All right, we're gonna adjourn the citizens' corner meeting, and we're gonna adjourn at 7 o'clock for our legislative session. Thank you for coming.